Hello, everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Now, we are going to keep rolling right along here with the Brawler's Guide, and today we are taking a look at the skills and feats that you want to select for your loadout for this particular build. And unfortunately, we have a whole lot of stuff to get through, so we're just going to dive right into this and try to make this fairly quick. And starting us off here with the skills for this brawler, specifically this build. Number one is going to be perception. It's the most used skill in the game, and it comes up for some feats that are actually relatively handy for you throughout the course of your adventuring career. Specifically, things like improved blind fighting and greater blind fighting. You need to have that kind of ramped up there a bit, but it's definitely worthwhile. Blind fighting is not something that comes up all the time, but it does happen, and when it does happen, it's great to have those feats. So, boost this skill. Following right along after that, we have the climb skill. It's based off of our primary stat. And we're wearing light armor, so this means that even the occasional point that you throw into here is going to keep this skill useful. And it's the same thing with the acrobatic skill. This still uses a good stat of ours, and again, being in light armor makes this a solid choice. And then we also have sense motive. It's handy to have when someone is lying, and it's a class skill for you. And although it works off of wisdom, wisdom's not a bad stat for us, but we're not really going to be getting a whole lot of bonus out of this. Now, then coming along after that, we have the escape artist skill. Now, normally you are going to be using your strength to overwhelm grapplers. The strength stat is our highest stat, so escape artist is more about wiggling free, using your dexterity, manipulating and moving your body in such a way. But you're going to be using your strength instead. So this one could be kind of okay, but really you can skip this one, especially since the brawler does not get that many skill points overall, and to top it off, our intelligence score is going to prevent us from getting a whole lot more down the line. Not only that, but the favorite class bonus, which is either hit point, skill point, or whatever your race's particular bonus might be, you're not going to be using a whole lot of those levels for skill points, either hit points or the optional racial bonuses that you can use. Also, going along with other skills that are not really going to be all that useful for you, the rest of them are basically going to be garbage. Handle animal. Charisma is a dump stat, but you don't move like monks do. You don't move as fast as monks do, so maybe having 1 point in it won't hurt you too much, but I wouldn't really go more over than that. You're not going to be doing amazing and incredible tricks with these animals. And then also craft, it's a dump stat and you're limited on skill points. And intimidate, if your DM will let you utilize your strength instead of charisma, this could be a green or blue skill, but really just start hitting and beating on whoever it is you're trying to scare. That will scare them plenty enough as it is. And then the knowledge skills that you get, dungeoneering and local. Again, this is working off of a dump stat, and we have a very severe lack of skill points, so skip these. Leave all the brilliant insights, research, and decision making to the skill monkey characters. Leave that to the wizard, to the rogue, the bard. Those people, those characters can handle that. You are here to hit things and deal damage to things. But that's the skills out of the way. Now we need to just keep hustling right on along over to the feats that we're going to select. Now, Brawler's feat selection is a bit interesting here because of martial flexibility. Martial flexibility solves a problem that a lot of martial focused classes have had for a while, because getting into some of these different feats, specific feats that you want, like say whirlwind attack, you need dodge, mobility, spring attack, combat expertise. That's about 5, 6 feats or so total right there to get to whirlwind attack. That's a pretty significant investment considering that Let's see, just on the base level of it, any character from level 1 to 20 will have a minimum of 10 feats. Their class may provide more. For example, fighters definitely get bonus feats, and being a human grants you a bonus feat as well. But that's still a limited resource. Spending 5 just to be able to get good at one thing and maybe have one or two other extra abilities on the side there, not counting your class abilities, that's really limiting, and those things are only useful in specific situations. Whirlwind attack is only good if you're surrounded and you make one single attack to try to hit all of those opponents. So when that moment comes up, incredibly useful, but it does not always come up. Martial flexibility fixes that problem. Need whirlwind attack? Great. Use some of your martial flexibility points. You need to do improved trip. Well, burn a couple points of your martial flexibility. On and on and on, depending on what the situation is, you can use some of your daily uses of martial flexibility and have the perfect feat set up right on hand there. So, our goal is not necessarily going to be building into and grabbing at these different abilities at the end of these feat trees, but more opening it up to make it easier to get there using martial flexibility. And to that end, starting us off, we are going to take power attack. Now, power attack is going to do wonders for us and keep paying on returns down the line. You trade your attack bonus for damage, and it opens up a bevy of other combat feats. This is what we take at first level. Also, we have combat expertise. We automatically qualify for this under the because it requires an intelligence score of 13, and our class ability lets us count as having that. Whether or not we do, whether or not we actually have an intelligence of 13, doesn't matter. So taking this opens up a lot of other combat feats: improved disarm, feint, trip. It's also a handy way to trade an attack bonus for your armor class in a pinch. So, being light armor and relying on our dexterity, if we need to have a little bit of extra armor class in the way of whoever's hitting us, this will let you do that. We take this as our first combat feat bonus. Then we have point blank shot, which gives us a +1 bonus to ranged attacks against targets within 30 feet. The big benefit is that this opens up for other things in martial flexibility, and we don't really have a whole lot of ranged options. Our really only good option out of everything we have are the proficiency with hand axes, so hurling those into targets. This will be handy for that. And then going along after, we take cleave. With we don't really have a lot in the way of reach weapons. In fact, it specifically says close weapons. This limits the number of extra attacks you may be able to get. But you will be in the thick of fighting. You will have opponents adjacent to each other, and this lets you get more feats up the chain for using combat flexibility. So if you're in a spot where you need great cleave, well, now you only have to burn one use, and that also keeps your actions intact too, to be able to still make attacks. But we still have more feats to go, and another one that's going to be really good to take just to help ease the strain of how many of our uses of martial flexibility we're burning at any given time. We're going to want to take dodge. Dodge will give you a +1 bonus to AC when you declare you're using it. It's nice, especially since, again, we don't have the highest armor class, but the real value is that this will open up mobility and spring attack, which will lead into whirlwind attack. And also, combat reflexes will be good for us as well. Again, not many good reach weapon options, but this still works with things like the trip feat and other battlefield control options. This is our third combat feat bonus from our class abilities. Now, this next one is something that I actually really enjoy, and that's pummeling strike. On a full attack or flurry on a single opponent, total all the damage you do before applying the opponent's damage reduction. So normally what happens is, say a monk does a flurry of blows, and they hit with 4 of their attacks. all four of those attacks, subtract damage reduction. So if it's a damage reduction of 5, that's 5, 10, 15, 20 points of damage gone. But with Pummeling Strike, you deal all of the damage all at once and you total it all. Then you apply damage reduction once. And so that's only 5 points of damage. So you get that other 15 snuck into there. Really, really, really great to have, especially since, let's see here, we take this at 7th level. We are not unlocking all of our different bonuses towards our unarmed strikes to help us overcome damage reduction. So this will be really, really very useful for you. And also to that end there, we also want to take Pummeling Charge. You can make a charge attack using this and still use your full attack at the end. This is for a single target, and have to be a target that qualifies for things like Pummeling Strikes. So, you're going to use this on a target that has damage reduction. But still, this is great to have. This is a really useful feat. And speaking of really useful feats, extra martial flexibility. This gets you 3 extra uses of your martial flexibility. That's 3 extra feats for you in a day, and you take this at 11th level. The Pummeling Charge you will take at 9th level. And also, another one that's just kind of a base feat that helps open up more things for down the line is Weapon Focus. And we're going to use this on our unarmed strikes. +1 bonus for all of your unarmed attacks. And it opens up access to more feats down the line. So if you want greater weapon focus or weapon specialization, greater weapon specialization to kind of help boost your damage output more, those become much more readily available for you. And also, again, to help with the whole damage output thing, Critical Focus. This gives you a +4 bonus on any of your rolls to confirm critical hits. This is handy, and it opens up all the different critical feat options. Since we also count as a fighter, you take this at 13th level, and you can use any of those critical feats. So bleeding critical, blinding critical. As using this, you open that up. So you can use your martial flexibility on this for, well, say you have a target that's immune to bleed damage, but they're still vulnerable to blinding attacks. You can use that. Really, really a good one to have. And then Improved Critical. Double the threat range of one weapon, and in this case, you're going to be using this for your unarmed damage. Well, unarmed strikes, rather. And this is your 5th combat feat bonus. Now, this is only up to about the level 15-ish range or so, 14. Is really from here, a lot of the other a lot of the other feats that could be thrown in, they're useful to differing degrees, and really it just kind of depends on what you pick out is going to depend on what situations you find yourself in more frequently. If you find yourself regularly fighting swarms and swarms of enemies, then, cleave, or even maybe picking up some of the other feats to help make having a whirlwind attack available to you might be the good option. There's other feats like Improved Initiative, which gives you a +4 bonus to your initiative, as you all should know. Going first, or at least going sooner in the initiative order, tends to really help you out quite a bit. But there's one other feat here that I just kind of really like for the overall flavor and aesthetic of the Brawler, and that's Catch Off Guard. No penalties for using improvised weapons. I mean, that's not great. You're really not going to be... Ideally, you're not going to use improvised weapons a lot, but come on. Who are we kidding? Brawler at the tavern, somebody's trying to start a bunch of shit with them, and they're sitting there just downing the last couple of drinks out of their mug. They look at it for a moment, and then they turn and just beat the other dude in the face with it till it breaks. I mean, doesn't that just fit so well? Certainly I think so, but maybe you think differently. Maybe you have different opinions or ideas on what feats would be useful here. Certainly go down into the comments below, make your voice heard. I certainly love reading and discussing overall. But we are going to wrap up for now. And if you've enjoyed today's content, well, YouTube over here is providing more videos. One is going to be something I've done recently. The other is, well, based off of whatever your viewing habits are on this channel. This will recommend other videos that might be appealing to you. But with that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so much for joining me here today, and you all have yourselves a good night.